welcome along and welcome to the valley, the old farm. We're here with Gille, who, to be honest, is doing a little bit of daydreaming. He hasn't moved much in the last little while. He's just sort of staring out at the family home and the grass field where he grew up, and he's a bit lost in his thoughts, combination of daydreaming and feeling a little bit overwhelmed, I think. So yeah, Gilles, we're here in central France, and Gilles, our main character on this new series on the Valley, the Old Farm, and he's come home after a few years away. Gilles an electrical engineer, and during the COVID period, the family endured a little bit of tragedy, like many others, and a few difficult situations. So Gilles was able to initially move to work from home, but back here at the family house, and he's kind of now at the point where he's decided that he can't continue to do that, but he does need to help his mum. So during COVID, Gilles' dad got ill and passed away suddenly and unexpectedly, and that left the family in a bit of a bind. Gilles' dad was a baker. Gilles' mum is a pretty good cook, and between them they own the bakery down in the village. You can see the windmill, although it looks a little bit messy over there. Maybe if we go for a wander to see. One of the things that Gilles remembers fondly is these apple trees, and whilst there's apples on them, they're not really yielding any fruit. They've been just falling and rotting in place. Spent a lot of time in this field as a kid, playing games and doing the stuff that kids do, and then of course this was the little mill that they had where his dad, geez, it looks a bit of a mess for now, but there's stuff everywhere over here. But this is where his dad ground a little bit of flour from the grain he bought from local farmers to use in the bakery, where his bread was a bit of a hit, but the biggest hit was Gilles' mum's apple donuts, and they're a bit of a staple of the district, although haven't been any for a while. And Cowshed here's seen better days, as has the garden. There's not much happening there, but yeah, no, Madelaine, Gilles' mum's been pretty lost since his dad passed, and as a result everything's kind of just stopped. That's what he was reflecting on as he stood here. The reason it's a bit overwhelming is he's decided he's throwing his lot in. So if we have a look at the map, that might be as good a place as any to start. So this is the valley, and we're up here in the top. You can see we own farm area 14 and 122, and we also, because it's zero cost on this map, we've also got the peripheries, and we got those so that we can get the bakery, which is down. Oops, I didn't show you where the bakery was. I'll come back to that in a sec. We need to turn these off because we've got no inputs, but you can see these donut style pastries that his mum makes that uses the apples, and of course we've got no egg, sugar or flour. Similarly, the cakes are a pretty comprehensive recipe, but in order to get the bakery going, again, we're going to need some product. We have got 5 apple trees on the property, and a small capacity mill with a standard recipe. But coming back to the map for a second, the bakery's down here in the corner. There's a little bit of a forested area, and then there's a collection of farms and pieces of land spread around the district. So the upshot of all of that is Madelaine has just turned 60, and if you're up on the news in France, you'll know there's a little bit of consternation across the board because the working age has been increased from 62 to 65. So regardless of what you think about that, that's the situation. So that in part prompted Gille's decision to pause his electrical engineering career and muck in to help his mum. The way he's kind of seeing it is he's got 5 years to get things organised and get his mum into a position where she can have the sort of retirement that he feels she deserves, all things being considered. And so his target's to generate $1 million and to get the bakery operating with at least 2 of the product lines going and fully stocked on inputs. So that's the 5-year plan. And to do that that's why he was a bit overwhelmed. He raced out, and being an electrical engineer, he's particularly partial to the electrical machinery, and he knew that the place his mum wanted him to start before he did anything was to mow the lawn. So that's the job he's been contemplating for the last hour and a half or so as he just sort of walked down memory lane looking around the place. So maybe we'll just get on with that. So somewhere around here, let's just have a bit of a pause to see. There's a crappy old water tank there. Maybe we can sort our apple trees there. There's the other 3 apple trees. And there's the mower. So if we drop our weight off, at least while he ponders how to go forward, he can do something productive and maybe just create a small smile on Madelaine's face. So we'll drop the weight off. I don't know, it looks like it could do with a bit of maintenance at some point. Oops. Hasn't had a lot of work. It looks like it's just sat around. Maybe it's been banged around in the garage. We'll have to see. If we pop over here, we can get started on this field. And I can catch you up on all the other things that he's kind of thinking. So there's the old chicken coop that hasn't had chickens in it for a long time now. They sort of fell by the wayside pretty early. They're pretty useful early in the COVID period when everyone got locked up, but once his dad got sick and then ultimately passed away, everything just sort of stopped, which I guess as an outsider looking in you can understand, but as Gille coming back, it's real depressing. God, there's even trees growing up. That'll have to get tidied at some point. But yeah, the reason he's feeling a little bit overwhelmed is he's never having been a farmer, growing up sort of on the edge of a bakery, and he's a bit of a bookish sort of guy, so consequently that's how he ended up as an engineer. He's always been a bit of a tinkerer, and his dad, bless his soul, was very much can do, let's sort of make it, we'll get by, we'll make something happen. Pretty handy with his hands, not a lot of education necessarily, but made up for it with enthusiasm. So they were pretty keen to see Gille off to school, and probably the biggest downside of him coming back to help his mum out is that she's not at all keen about him putting his career on hold. So don't know how all of that's going to go down. There'll no doubt be friction for a while to come yet, but at the moment any sort of emotion that looks forward's a good thing, so that's what he's hoping for. Meanwhile, we'll just crack on and get started here. So what he's kind of thinking is, well, about the only way he can make sense of the situation is, having just bought this new tractor, they're down to their last 30,000 euro, even though they've got a few assets. But the big problem that he's not used to is there's no money coming in. So really the priority here is to get some income. Now, there's a few possibilities. The most obvious one is to get the bakery cracking again, but as you saw from the schedule of ingredients, we're going to need a bunch of stuff. So before then, the local market does and has on occasions in the past enabled them to sell excess apples. So there's a chance to do that. If we could get a couple of chickens, that'd at least give us some eggs to be going on with. Maybe a couple of cows. We could, start the process heading towards some milk. And in fact, as he's tootling down here, there's actually a lot of grass on this field. So I wonder, maybe that getting the cows started might be a good early move. We can't buy any real volume of them, but we should have enough to make some hay and even potentially some silage. If you recall correctly, there should be, knocking around the place, a tedder. He hasn't seen it, but I'm sure there was one from when he was a kid, because back when they did have some cows, they did make some hay in this field on occasions. So I'll have to go looking for that shortly. But it's looking like the fastest point. Of course, we've got that garden there too. Haven't had much of a look at that. He was never really saw himself as much of a gardener. But maybe there's an opportunity there to, in conjunction with the apples, just get a little bit of produce happening, so that we can get up and started. I mean, ultimately, this field's a pretty good size. It's only ever been grass that he can remember, but, looking across at the fields around about, and particularly, coming back on the train to get back, he's reminded of how much farmland there is around here. Maybe there's an opportunity to put a little bit of crop in this field in one area, and perhaps we could produce a little bit of grain, that we could feed the chickens, because that's going to be the problem. If we get some chickens, we don't have any grain for them. but ultimately we could sort out and tidy up around that little mill and see if we can get some flour happening. Because if they're sort of our early objectives, that'll get us into a position where we'll get some cash in the door. So that might be the way to begin. Whatever path we take, there's no doubt that time is going to pass pretty quickly. And there's lots of work to do. So, and no one else to do it. But for now, we might just crack on and finish this mowing, and then we can have a bit of a hunt around and see what's see if we can find that tedder and whatever else is hiding around the traps. Just over there's the local dealership, so if we need anything. Yeah, it turns out he actually went to school with that lady that works in the front office there, so he's kind of got a bit of an in terms of getting advice and access to equipment. So one thing he learnt working in the city was it's not always about what you know, it's who you know. So that might come in handy somewhere down the track. Only a couple of little bits left to do now, and Gille's actually pretty happy with his little tractor purchase. Should have got into one of these electric vehicles years ago. In town he pretty much just got round on a little Razor scooter, but this little rigid tractor is quite nippy and has powered through this job pretty nicely. There's a few bumps in the field that might need a little bit of work at some point. Now, thinking about the amount of grass that's here, we're probably looking at, we don't need it all to be hay. Well, geez, we just couldn't afford that many cows to start with, so probably a mix of, and we've got nowhere to store it either. Can't remember how much we can put in that barn there. We might just sort of have to see, but maybe what we do is we sort of have a go at making hay on half the fields and use the other half for silage. We've got that trailer in the barn over there, in the garage over there that we can use. Now let's just turn this guy off. Just scooch over the end of our little garden there. And we'll pop you back in the shed. Yeah. Let's, before we think about it, put the weight back on, because otherwise we'll forget and wonder where we've left it. It's pretty particular, likes to have his plans, does Gille? Let's just see. So what's the deal here? Okay, so it's not a bad little cow shed. It holds up to 20 cows. I don't think we can afford, well, we definitely can't afford 20 cows, but a couple might be a really good start. And 20,000 litres of food. And then we've got this little wagon here that'll pick up the grass and the hay for us. Let's see what else have we got going on here. A bit of a mess in there. Just a chain on the floor, nothing much else. There's a tanker. He's seen better than being in the weather. Oh, what's this hiding at the back here? That looks like a an old windrower. Just out here growing in the weeds. We got our water tank. Ah, this is what he remembers. Man, that hasn't been used for a while. Where is the grease gun? It's a pretty simple machine, just got a universal turning a couple of rotors, so it shouldn't be too hard as long as it's not seized. But that should enable us to make hay pretty easily. I'm thinking though, looking at these trees, let's just go back to our little menu here. We need to get these trees working for us. It looks like all they need is water. And then they're going to produce, they're each going to produce 300 odd litres of apples a month. And if we have a look in that, what's in the marketplace for the local area, tomatoes, strawberries, somewhere down the list here, apples. Well, forget our bakery, but looks like we can get 600 odd 1,000 litres. Yeah, they don't fluctuate too much. So 5 trees, 300, about 1,500 litres a month, and that would get us $600 to $900. So at least that would be a starting income. So I'm deciding very much the first order of business, let's get some water in these trees. If he's honest, I reckon Gille's feeling the best about himself as he has in a little while. Hasn't actually solved any major problems yet, but he does at least feel like he's doing something constructive. Now, this guy only holds 1,600 litres. I'm guessing that's a bit much for the trees. Where can we drop it off here? Somewhere around here will be a... There we go. Well, if we put 1,600 litres in each tree, what did we see from the way the trees work? The 300 litres, one water makes one apple, so 1,600 litres is going to run the trees for a little while. Let's get back over and do those other ones in the corner. Practice his reversing skills and try not to scratch the paint on his new tractor. There we go, there's one down there. At least there's a decent wood pile. We won't have to be chopping wood anytime soon. Strange, so that was his dad's kind of big keep fit activity, and didn't help him at all in the end. Bit sad, really. But can't dwell on it. Is what it is. Let's get one more tree done here. Engineer in Gille is still already wondering why there isn't a watering system for these trees. That strikes him as an obvious requirement, but who knows when we'll get to it. At least it's a quick and easy job. take to get this garden producing? Might have to have a look at that. Almost certainly that requires some water. That's the trees done. Let's drop some water in that garden. We can have a look at what the deal is there, because at least if we can get stuff growing, we can be confident that we'll have something coming in the future. I presume if we just fill this water barrel up over here, it's the way to go. Let's have a look here. So the little vegetable garden, water, straw, and pellets in various combinations. And we don't have any straw. Sure, we can buy some, but we're probably going to need that for bedding for the cows anyway at some point. So I'll just add that to the list of things that we need to do. Melons and we need for the cakes, but they're going to be a wise off. In terms of sort of 3 water, some red lettuce only needs 2 waters. And what about prices? What are they like? Well, melons are pretty darn valuable, you know, as are the red lettuces. So there's a good reason to be getting into those in due course, and at those prices, that'll cover the costs of straw. I don't know how much pellets cost. Actually, now that he thinks about it, didn't we see some pellets over by the little mill? Might have to wander over there after. Now we're going to need more water in all of those spots, but for now that'll do us. Let's just see if we can move this tedder and actually make some hay. Because if we can do that, we've got a chance of at least feeding a couple of cows. It's not an ideal mix, but it'll be good enough for now. At least it pulls. Mate, let's just back it in the workshop here and just see if we can sort anything out. Right, what are we going to need here? A few bits and pieces, a little bit of grease. 94. I think we've got to spend it. Still a bit grubby. Let's just see if we can blast the dirt off as well. Clean it up a little bit, won't hurt. At least we give it a chance of helping us out. Right. So let's see how this goes. I'm thinking if we do a couple of lengths to the other side, it doesn't really matter where we start, I guess. Pop it down. Well, she seems to run. So that's good. We'll just do a couple of lengths across the end here. It's making a little bit of hay, so that's good. Wonder if that windrower is going to work for us. That'd be kind of nice. Actually, looking at this, it's already occurred to Gille that if he decided to do this early, he could probably mow and pull this at the same time. This is hardly taking any effort at all, so maybe it's a one pass job somewhere down the track. Well, that was fairly handy. Let's see. Do we have the same sort of luck with the windrower? Given it's just going to get covered in dirt again, I don't know that we'll bother to wash it. Let's just jump in the shed here. A little bit more and away we go. Oh yeah, seems to be doing the job. Can't complain about that at all. Let's see how much we got here before the day finishes. It'd be nice to see if we can at least get a K out in the shed. It's just that windrower is working all right, so we'll pick you up and pop you there for the minute. Need to unfold. It's looking promising. Picking a bit up. Toes it fine. Got no idea how much a couple of cows are going to eat, so let's just pick up so we can turn around and avoid the shrubs. This one might be a bit of a bigger pile. Well, there we go. This field's got plenty on it. So, now if I remember correctly, I reckon the Gille's sort of drawing his childhood here, but I reckon we might just about be able to. I don't think we can drive through. We might be able to empty. Let's have a look here. Can we unload into there is the question. Looks like we probably can. So that'll be pretty convenient. Take it straight off the fill. We might actually just about get up the rise. Not quite. But we can at least tip it in the door. There we go. Just move forward a whisker. Now let's duck in there for a sec. Whoops. And go around the other way. Just as easy. And let's be conscious of the costs. We want them to I reckon we want to go for one of each. Yeah, let's get one there and one that's a little bit older. At least then we've kind of got a start. So there's our couple of cows, and if we have a look at the menu, they've got a little bit of hay, so they'll start. We might get a little bit of milk. It might be down a little bit, but until we put, oh, and it looks like we could potentially give them some alfalfa. So we'll have to see how that goes. But that's brought a bit of a smile to Gille's face for the first time in a while. Maybe go in and give his mum some positive news for a change now that we've started. And until next time, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed our first installment of this challenge series on the Valley of the Old Farm. Come back and see next time where Gille goes with it. Until then, stay safe. See ya.